Alfred Austin, An Introduction. Poetry is a fascinating use of language, and over the centuries our lives have become enriched by its works. In this volume we look at some of those works by the Victorian Poet Laureate, Alfred Austin. Born in Headingley, Yorkshire in 1835, Austin went on to graduate from the University of London in 1853. Training to be a barrister was a success, but his love was literature, and he turned to this full-time as a novelist, playwright and poet. After several false starts, he published as a poet in 1861, which was received with a measure of success. In 1870 he wrote a book, Poetry of the Period, which managed to criticise the great Victorian poets like Tennyson, Arnold, Swinburne and Browning without an undue measure of negativity. He continued to write poetry with great effect to a larger and admiring audience. With the death of Tennyson in 1892, a number of candidates were looked at for the post of Poet Laureate. Finally, in 1896, after it was rejected by William Morris, the post was Austin's. His work was entwined with his love of nature, and he is a fine example of this imperial age. His poems have a softness, texture and comfort that is deeply rewarding. Alfred Austin died in 1913. These poems are read for you by Richard Midgley and Gisela Rowe.
In Praise of England. From tangled brake and trellised bower bring every bud that blows, but never will you find the flower to match an English rose. It blooms with more than city grace, though rustic and apart. It has a smile upon its face and a dewdrop in its heart. Though wide the goodly world around your fancy may have strayed, where was the woman ever found to match an English maid? At work she smiles, through play she sings, she doubts not nor denies, she'll cling to you as woodbine clings, and love you till she dies. If you would put it to the proof, then round the zodiac roam, and never will you find the roof to match an English home. To hear the sound of children's feet still pattering on the stair, 'tis made by loving labour sweet, and sanctified by prayer. Go traverse tracts sublime or sweet, snow peak or scorched ravine, but where will you the landscape meet to match an English scene? The hamlet hallowed by its spire, the wildwood fresh with flowers, garden and croft and thorpe and byre gleaming through silvery showers. Across the wave, along the wind, flutter and plough your way, but where will you a sceptre find to match the English sway? Its conscience holds the world in awe, with blessing or with ban. Its freedom guards the reign of law and majesty of man.
Sorrow's Importunity. When sorrow first came wailing to my door, April rehearsed the madrigal of May, and as I ne'er had seen her face before, I kept on singing, and she went her way. When next came sorrow, life was winged with scent of glistening laurel and full blossoming bay. I asked but understood not what she meant, offered her flowers, and she went her way. When yet a third time sorrow came, we met in the ripe silence of an autumn day. I gave her fruit I had gathered, and she ate, then seemed to go unwillingly away. When last came sorrow around barn and byre, wind-carven snow, the year's white sepulchre lay. Come in, I said, and warm you by the fire. And there she sits, and never goes away.
A Night in June, by Alfred Austin. Lady, in this night of June, fair like thee and holy, art thou gazing at the moon that is rising slowly? I am gazing on her now, something tells me so art thou. Night hath been when thou and I side by side were sitting, watching o'er the moonlit sky fleecy cloudlets flitting. Close our hands were linked then, when will they be linked again? What to me the starlight still, or the moonbeam's splendour, if I do not feel the thrill of thy fingers slender? Summer nights in vain are clear, if thy footstep be not near. Roses slumbering in their sheaths o'er my threshold clamber, and the honeysuckle wreathes its translucent amber round the gables of my home. how is it thou dost not come? If thou camest, rose on rose from its sleep would waken, from each flower and leaf that blows spices would be shaken, floating down from star and tree, dreamy perfumes welcome thee. I would lead thee where the leaves in the moon rays glisten, and where shadows fall in sheaves we would lean and listen for the song of that sweet bird that in April nights is heard. And when weary lids would close, and thy head was drooping, then, like dew that steeps the rose o'er thy languor stooping, I would, till I woke a sigh, kiss thy sweet lips silently. I would give thee all I own, all thou hast would borrow. I from thee would keep alone fear and doubt and sorrow. All of tender that is mine should most tenderly be thine. Moonlight, into other skies I beseech thee wander, cruel thus to mock mine eyes, idle thus to squander love's own light on this dark spot, for my lady cometh not.
Love's Unity
by Alfred Austin.
How can I tell thee when I love thee best? In rapture or repose? How shall I say? I only know I love thee every way, plumed for love's flight or folded in love's nest. See, what is day but night bedewed with rest? And what the night except the tired-out day? And 'tis love's difference, not love's decay, if now I dawn, now fade upon thy breast. Self-torturing sweet, is not the self-same sun wanes in the west that flameth in the east? His fervour nowise altered nor decreased. So rounds my love, returning where begun, and still beginning, never most nor least, but fixedly various, all love's parts in one.